Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Knockout Podcast, episode 35, I do believe. Racking the numbers up.
Hello, everyone. How are we doing?
Yeah, a bit later in the week we come to you, but as ever, plenty to discuss. We obviously talked about was it 254? Yeah, 254
Yeah,
happened on
two
the
five.
weekend. That actually happened at a reasonable time for once, which
Oh,
was
it was.
fantastic.
Yeah, we were talking about it. It was absolutely glorious. It was lovely to. I got home from work, just basically put it straight on, and yeah, enjoyed
Not
myself.
sitting
It
there
was.
sort of in your bed with like your coffee and your
Yeah.
fourth chocolate bar to give you energy to keep you up. Actually sitting there with a meal. It's like
Yeah.
this is normal.
This is fine. I am a sociable person. I can
Yeah, this
not.
this and basically the UFC London event we get once a year is all we get.
Yeah,
Or the
pretty
Rogue
much. I
One,
can.
or the Rogue One they sent to like Scandinavia.
Yeah, but that's not too bad as well.
But
But
Gustafson's
yeah, we
retired now, so who knows?
we were saying we wish there were more of these.
Yeah,
Obviously, that would be
do
great.
more, do
But
more.
I highly doubt it, but especially now
Yeah,
Khabib's retired,
yeah.
they're not going to do
Especially now, he was like the only one that could like bring like even when Bisping fought in Manchester, I think it was against Anderson Silva. That was
No,
it. Or
the Manchester
was it
pay-per-view against
Henderson?
Dan
Yeah, it
Henderson.
was
Yeah,
Henderson. And the fight took place at like 3 a.m. in Manchester.
yeah,
So it's
yeah. I
like
think Bisping. I thought it was like Bisping and Henderson walked out in Manchester at about 5 a.m.
it's like
Like the crowd,
great.
just absolute zombies. Like, but yeah, because it's all about the pay-per-views in it. So
Yeah. So
what are they going to do?
Bisping didn't have that pulling power, so I'm not sure there's much hope.
And McGregor's like only gonna. I feel like only gonna fight in Vegas or
Yeah,
New
I'm not sure he's
York.
coming back
Like
to Dublin
in
anytime
New York.
soon.
Yeah, so he's been asking for it. I feel like for a while now. But yeah,
I feel like
sad for
if
us.
he said, I feel like if he said, I want my, if he beat Poirier hypothetically and got into a lightweight fight, I feel like hypothetically, if he said, I want it in Dublin, they'd go for it.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. I don't know like what they're going to do about the title. We're kind of getting ahead of ourselves
Yeah,
now, but
we can discuss that.
whatever.
We've veered well and truly off
Yeah.
topic, but
Yep.
we'll start with the lightweight discussion. Khabib, Gaethje. We had so many questions going into this. We sort of ranted on in our preview, not really all too coherently, and
Yeah.
our sort of questions were answered in a pretty brutal fashion. In that Khabib is just too good.
A bit like I don't know how you feel about this, but like just in the manner of which he did it and everything. To me, this is probably Khabib's most impressive performance. To me,
Yeah,
I thought it was like absolutely spectacular. Just in like the whole kind of like story and build up coming into the fight, as well as just the way he did it. Just everything was spectacular and against who it was against. Like I still maintain and have even after having seen the fight, and Gaethje did get soundly beaten. I still maintain that Gaethje was Khabib's most dangerous opponent, and I think that he probably had the most success against Khabib that anyone has
well,
had.
he won round one on two of the judges' scorecards.
That's strange. I don't know if I
Strange.
necessarily agree with that,
So
especially like
technically one of only two fighters to take a round off him.
yeah. I don't know if I agree with that,
Yeah,
but he overall had the most success. I feel like he put the most damage on Khabib. I think is the most accurate thing to say.
yeah.
Um,
Which is also saying a lot when him putting the most amount of damage was negligible. That I can't. I didn't for once in that first round think, oh, Khabib's wobbled, or
yeah, I think that is probably more like a massive testament to just how tough Khabib is in many ways, though, because Gaethje hit him clean. Like
yeah,
going like Gaethje's left hook was like looked sharp in this fight, and like he countered Khabib a few times with the left hook. He also countered at least one of Khabib's jabs like really nicely in the first round, and then obviously the leg kicks. But it just like he didn't really do anything. Like he caught Khabib two or three times clean on the chin, and Khabib was completely unfazed. So like it is just a testament to how tough Khabib is. I think a part of that is that say in like the Poirier and the like Michael Johnson fights, why he kind of looked more hurt, I think was like the way he approached this fight was significantly different. I think he knew that he had to put himself into the fire and kind of really get in Gaethje's face in this fight. And like it was a really kind of wild performance on the feet from Khabib. Like a lot of nice jabs, but he was very high paced compared to some of his other fights, like Poirier, for example. It was similar to like the Edson Barboza fight, was very kind of high paced. I think he knew that he needed to do that, and so he knew that he was going to get hit, so it wasn't as much of a shock. Whereas like in the Michael Johnson and the Poirier fights, the reason why he was a little more stunned by the shots, I feel, was because he maybe wasn't as expected in a sense.
Yeah.
He didn't throw himself in the fire like he did, so he could see the shots coming. It was fine for him. But yeah, I feel like Gaethje did fairly good work. I think I said I predicted Gaethje was going to win. But I did say a caveat was that I said that Gaethje should kind of go back a little bit to his old style, heavily pressure, and then use his nice kind of new outside footwork as kind of like a fallback once if Khabib shoots and he needs to kind of just stay on the back foot for a little while. But I feel like Gaethje really kind of took a more back foot approach and really didn't try his old kind of pressuring game, which I think is kind of one of the things that cost him in this.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I think like one of the things that perhaps we and I'm trying to think a lot of people didn't consider, or at least I didn't hear talked about, was just that pressure that Khabib put on. And yeah, like perhaps I didn't expect it to be that unrelenting and that constant. I think a lot of it was to do with, as you say, like wanting to, needing to get in range. But just the pressure that Khabib put on him so early on, it was just like, I think it just threw Gaethje off. I think he just had so much things in mind. Even his striking, leg kicks were clean, and like I think they were starting to pay dividends. But the crisp striking that we saw against Ferguson, I don't know whether there was a game plan to sort of not go to that, but I'd be surprised if it wasn't. It was like he was very much swinging for the fences at points in that first round, and I think he just like as we've seen with everyone, it's just everyone that's come up against Khabib, it's just like they've just been overwhelmed by the threat of that takedown, by that pressure, that it's just difficult to keep yourself composed and to be like, no, if I just stick behind the straight punches, stick behind that technique that served him so well against Ferguson, and he just struggled to get everything going that he needed to get going. So you need to be perfect for 25 minutes, and it's just seemingly just not possible.
Yeah, it was. Gaethje just really didn't get the chance to kind of like settle into that like clean kind of crisp striking that he kind of wanted to. Partly because like Khabib was so relenting with the pressure, and because I think he really did. He was genuinely afraid of the takedown threat. Like he kind of overreacted to a lot of kind of Khabib's feints and like his strikes on the feet. He was like, everything was like, oh, is this a takedown? Is this a takedown? And he was very worried about that. He clearly didn't like fight his best in terms of like, or stay as composed as you said. I think another thing was like Khabib generally does like fairly, like he does pressure heavily, but not necessarily always. Like if you look at the Poirier fight, he takes, or the Iaquinta fight, he takes backward steps. And like when Poirier threw a leg kick, I remember like Khabib does like genuinely like jump out of the way of it. There are a few ways in which like Khabib does go backwards, but so the reason why he didn't this fight, as I think, is kind of just a testament to not how, which is something that kind of gets underrated in Khabib's game. Because everyone knows how technically sound, like he's the best grappler ever in MMA. Everyone knows how technically sound his grappling is, and everyone knows that he's like insanely strong and incredibly fast. like he's a good athlete, but he's also a very intelligent fighter, which I feel that he might not necessarily get enough credit for. And like that was like he adapted to Gaethje and knew that he couldn't allow Gaethje to start to build and to have that like forward pressure. He just took that off the table completely, and it was a brilliant performance overall.
Yeah, I mean, I think as I said, any doubts we had that he was just the best in all rounds just were shown. In fact, another thing was there's clearly something that we didn't give consideration. There was so much of, well, if Justin gets taken to the ground, he'll scramble. He won't stay still. He won't let Khabib settle with the takedown. What actually transpired is he did largely, once he was down, didn't put up enough of a fight. Khabib was just able to move through the guards, and what transpired is actually Justin's got a massive hole in his sort of submission defense, and it was very easy for Khabib to get once he'd got the takedown to sort of progress to full mount and to lock in any choke that he wanted.
Yeah, I think like so Gaethje generally he's a good scrambler in kind of more typical wrestling situations. So like when the takedown is still being chased, Gaethje is very good and very quick and strong. But what Khabib did, like he really made Gaethje not wrestle with him necessarily, but like play BJJ with him. He kind of like chained submission attacks together. And Gaethje did look fairly lost with that. Like his submission defense really isn't at that much of a high level compared to the rest of his game. For understandable reasons, like his game otherwise is built completely around avoiding that. So it's understandable he wouldn't really put as much time into it and it wouldn't be as high level. But yeah, Khabib really made him play the like submission traditional BJJ game with him, and just absolutely dominated him in it. It wasn't close, and Khabib was a lot more aggressive with the submissions compared to other fights. For that reason, I think another like good adaptation by him. Like normally, Khabib is a very like settle into the kind of like when he's on the ground, settle into it. And then beat you up from there. Whereas he really did just smash through the guard, didn't spend as much time on the ground and pound, and really just chased the submissions aggressively. Yeah. But yeah, it was brilliant from Khabib. Absolutely. Like even if we say at some points, oh, Gaethje could have done this better, maybe we feel he could have pressured more, whatever. It's none of that is to take away from the fact that I genuinely think this was a like career defining and just absolutely fantastic performance from Khabib.
Yeah, and I also think a lot of that is a lot of Gaethje's, strategizing and game plan not being carried out was down to Khabib. Like, in a similar mold to sort of Adesanya Costa. People say, Costa had an off day. Yeah, well, Adesanya made him have that off day. Type thing. Obviously, got the win and then seemingly announced his retirement. I know already. Dana White, I think, was on like Fox Sports or something, and saying that Khabib, that he'd already had positive talks with Khabib, and that Javier Mendez's coach said he was emotional, and that even he didn't know that retirement was coming, and that Dana White was apparently saying he's still going to chase that 30-0. So who knows? I thought it sounded pretty sincere at the time, but I guess only time will tell. It's a shame that he looks like he's retired.
Yeah, generally retirements in MMA don't stick, and like so I kind of like it hasn't. Henry Cejudo retired earlier this year. He hasn't come out of retirement yet, but when Cejudo retired, I really didn't believe it for a second.
He did an interview today saying I'll come back if you pay me.
Yeah, like Henry Cejudo is almost certainly going to fight again. Khabib, as at the time. I was with you. Yeah, I thought it was very genuine, like the speech he gave, and Khabib is generally, in terms of like he's got enough money. He's probably outside of McGregor. He's like the next best paid athlete in there, so it's not really a dispute over pay. It really did genuinely seem like it was fighting was a thing that him and his like dad did together, and now that he's lost his dad, he kind of wanted to maybe move past it, and he didn't feel comfortable necessarily. So I don't know. It was difficult in a way. I'm kind of split on this, like in terms of split on whether or not he will come back, and also split on whether or not I necessarily want him to come back.
I mean, seemingly the only thing he's going to come out of retirement for is going to be that GSP mega fight. Like,
Yeah,
I can't,
possibly.
like I can't see him if he's going to relinquish the belt, which I imagine he will. Like, I don't think it's going to be a quick turnaround if he does come out of retirement. I don't think it's going to be in like a month's time. It's going to be like, oh yeah. But then also, if he comes back, the only three people he'd fight against would be Poirier, Ferguson, or Gaethje, and I don't think he needs or would want to run it back with any of them. So the only thing I can see him doing is relinquishing and sort of GSP 30-0 at some sort of like 160, 165 catch weight.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I don't think he'd fight McGregor, mostly because I just don't think he'd like want to give McGregor like the satisfaction of like getting that rematch. I think it is better, just all round and funnier, if Khabib just never gives McGregor the rematch. Because like that's better. I perfectly understand. I think it's a good decision. I could see maybe the Ferguson fight if Tony wins something like. It could be made that like this was the one fight everyone wanted to see. It fell through, and then so many times like I could maybe see that, but I would probably agree with you that the most likely one he'd come back for is a GSP fight. Although, like you say, like it won't be particularly soon. I feel like the clock is definitely ticking on that. GSP is knocking on 40, so that's got to be in the next year or two, I feel.
Yeah. I'm saying, yeah. When I say not soon, I sort of mean like it'll enough time will pass that he'll be sort of forced to vacate, or he will vacate his belt. I can't see, for example, us getting confirmation of a fight happening sort of in the summer, by which time he can still sort of hold the belt. I think he'll vacate and then have that as sort of like a standalone fight.
Yeah, I feel like he's more than happy to vacate based on like he announced his retirement. He's fine vacating the belt. But yeah, I feel like the GSP fight is probably the most interesting one. It is just a shame that GSP is obviously quite old at this point.
Yeah.
So we're not really going to get the best GSP. It would like prime for prime. This would be a brilliant fight to see.
Yeah.
It could genuinely decide who is the greatest of all time. If like, and they could still probably bill it as that. Like that's
I'm sure they will.
I'm definitely sure they will. But
like,
obviously it doesn't.
This is a GSP who's fought once in 7 years, and by the time this fight comes around, it'd probably be 1 in 8, maybe even 1 in 9.
Yeah. So it won't mean as much, but it will still be good. And if like GSP like is still even at 40, I believe GSP will still be a fairly tough fight for Khabib. So it'll be interesting. But yeah, obviously it's not confirmed yet. But I'd kind of like to see it.
We will see. As we said. Sorry, what were you saying?
I'll just say that we've still probably got more like so. What we've kind of got left to still talk about is the belt after Khabib. So what's going to happen with 155, and then like now, if we assume that Khabib is retired now, he doesn't fight again. Kind of where does he stand? Like in terms of what is his legacy? Where does he stand all time?
I mean, if we're dealing with his legacy, I mean, I think the thing I take away is like, and I think I can't remember where I saw it said, it's like at a time where like everyone, it feels like, is working to be like this so like well-rounded athlete, and I think Khabib is well-rounded. Like I think, as we discussed, like his striking is like undersold and valued.
It's janky but extremely functional.
If I'm thinking of like the MMA meta now, it's someone like, and to be honest, probably in a sense similar to like the GSP. Like it's like Kamaru Usman. That I feel like is like like functional striking leading to the wrestling, like strength. And I feel like Khabib is like has got that, but also like he's so dominant with the wrestling. And it's like at a time where everyone's becoming more well-rounded. There's so many different like strings to everyone's bow. There's this guy that like everyone knows what he wants to do. Everyone knows what he's good at. Everyone knows how he's going to win the fight when he fights you, but just no one can do anything. And I think that just like sheer domination, like, and you say like pound for pound, it's like I don't think I put him as my pound for pound number one because I don't think he's fought at the elite for long enough. But equally well, if you're sort of discussing him in the sort of categories with like I don't know Demetrius Johnson, John Jones, Anderson Silva, GSP, maybe even Stipe. I guess he could come into there maybe.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't have a number one, but I think maybe in that sort of top five. You know, Khabib's lost 2 rounds officially. I don't think he lost that round against Gaethje.
Yeah.
Never been like properly rocked. Never been knocked down. Never been finished. Never been in any real trouble.
Never been cut. Never, like literally never been in trouble. Essentially.
And it's like you can't say that about anyone else. Everyone else has lost fights. You know, GSP's lost twice, and well, maybe to Johnny Hendricks. You know, John Jones. Like, okay, he's technically lost a fight on the records. Yeah, that was like a DQ, but like
the Reyes fight.
People will look at the Reyes
fight.
and will look at the Santos and say like that was not dominant. You know, he's been cut, he's been hurt. I personally would have him 2. I'd have him just below GSP. I don't think even if he beats GSP, that particularly changes it for me.
Yeah, it's so post GSP's prime that it is difficult
like,
to.
If we see the GSP, if like that first, again, a very hypothetical, if in that first round of that fight it's like clear that like this is a very good version of GSP, then maybe. But I don't think that's what we're going to see. And also, like GSP's run in that welterweight, you know, he just tore through everyone. If Khabib, you know, in an ideal world, I think even with his dad, you're probably looking at 13-0, and he would have retired. I'd have loved to have seen him fight, you know, guys like Charles Oliveira.
Yeah,
guys. I mean, I don't know whether it would ever happen. Like maybe fight like Makhachev. Like, there's so many guys that I would have loved to have seen him fight.
But, Holloway.
I'd have loved to have seen that.
I would have loved the Holloway fight. I think it'd be fantastic. And like his legacy, certainly the best grappler ever. Like that's just without a shadow. Like Damian Maia is an absolute genius, but. I feel Khabib combines like the best attributes of just all the other people that you could consider the best grapplers in MMA. Khabib combines it all. He's got the passing and submissions of Maia. He's got the takedowns of GSP. Like not in terms of like they're not the same takedowns, but the effectiveness of them. He's certainly the best grappler. I'd have him certainly top 5. All time, and like you said, like pound for pound, I think pound for pound is different from like greatest of all time talks. I'd have him as my current pound for pound number 1 in terms of like John Jones can stay salty about it, but he's looked awful lately, and Khabib's looked absolutely fantastic against much better opposition.
I mean, I wouldn't even have Jones as I'd probably put like Stipe or like I don't know.
I'd have a lot of people.
Maybe not
John
Nunes
Jones
competition, but yeah, I certainly wouldn't have Jones as my 2.
Yeah, I'd have I think Kamaru Usman, Volkanovski, Adesanya at least above John Jones in terms of pound for pound. Greatest of all time. Certainly top 5 Khabib for me. Where he is, it's difficult to say. I feel I'd say Jose Aldo is someone that's very often underrated.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
Greatest of all time. I feel like the 13 seconds against McGregor have done such a massive disservice to Jose Aldo's legacy, and it's actually very sad to me because he was such a fantastic fighter. So like Jose, my top 3 are like Jose, and they can vary around in terms of order. Would be GSP, Jose Aldo, and Demetrius Johnson. And it's going to be difficult for someone to break into that. Maybe if Khabib beat GSP and GSP looked good, as you said, he could break into that. But I'd probably then have Khabib number 4. I'd imagine would be my position for him, something like that.
Yeah, it's weird because it's like on paper, like he is the most dominant out of any of them. You know, Demetrius has lost, GSP's lost, Aldo's lost, and even in fights they've won, you know, there's probably fights they've won there that, you know, made up GSP Hendricks, you know, there's fights that you can make an argument for, but it is that, like, if I look at his like truly elite victories, I'm thinking McGregor, Poirier, Gaethje.
Yeah,
Maybe
RDA
in 2014. RDA in 2014.
Because like, if you look at where RDA was in his career, RDA went on like a 4-fight win streak before the Khabib fight, lost to Khabib, then went on his title run.
Yeah.
Like RDA was basically prime RDA.
Yeah, I'd have those 4.
They're his best wins. Yeah,
but like there's just like you just want another.
You want a bit more.
Another 3 fights. I think he's right up there. If he beats Ferguson,
go on.
like a Charles Oliveira and someone else.
Yeah, should I get up the rankings? Like, yeah, if like 3 more good contenders, like, yeah, he beat. Give me a second. Doing this a bit on the fly. Come on.
Yeah, it is.
But yeah, if
that a couple more.
But yeah, if he beat, say he beat Ferguson, Charles Oliveira, and then maybe like had a super fight with Holloway or something.
Yeah,
there's a very strong argument that he was number 1 for me, I'd say. But I agree with you in terms of his really elite wins. He hasn't been at the very pinnacle for that long in terms of like compared to GSP.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, I don't know. He's certainly up there, and he's certainly brilliant in every way. And if like he wants to stay retired and he doesn't want to come back because he misses kind of the connection with his dad, that's perfectly understandable, and I'll be happy for him. But there are still so many fights I'd love to see him in. Like, as you mentioned earlier, I was so sad that Holloway fight fell out.
I'm glad Poirier got that fight, but that Holloway fight would have been something.
Yeah, I'm glad Poirier got. I meant it like 2-2-3 when like.
Of course.
Although Holloway that was like on very short notice, and he was slightly injured. I don't know necessarily.
Yeah.
But a Holloway Khabib fight, I feel that Holloway I feel Holloway might not win. I don't know if I'd pick Holloway, but I feel that he'd be severely underrated in that fight compared to a lot of people just view Holloway as being blown out. And there's a lot Holloway can do in that fight. I don't see him getting chewed through on the ground like Gaethje did. And I don't see him getting finished. So I think Holloway is going to be there all 5 rounds. And I feel that at his best, he's got the footwork and he's excellent, like brilliant in the clinch. That Holloway could make that a tough fight. But I am the world's biggest Holloway shill, so I will say anything. But that would be a brilliant fight. And yeah, GSP, Ferguson fight, obviously, Charles Oliveira. There's still a lot that I'd like to see Khabib do, but obviously I'd be happy for him if he never fought again.
Yeah, I feel like his legacy is cemented, whether he comes back out or not. In terms of lightweight contenders, obviously we've got the McGregor, Poirier. I mean, it hasn't been confirmation. I know there was a few more like cryptic tweaks. I think McGregor today even put one out saying like he'd done some tests and his optimum weight was 155. Some like McGregor rubbish, to be honest. But
yes,
more McGregor bollocks. But that looks like that's edging closer and closer to sometime early Jan. I imagine it's going to be winner of that fight's Gaethje. I mean, Chandler seems to be getting a lot of like.
I feel like Chandler needs a win in the division.
Yeah, it's like, are you seriously telling me that just because you won a thing in Bellator that you're going to come over and like instantly get yourself in a title shot in like the hardest division, the deepest division in the UFC? So
I feel like correct me if I'm wrong, I think Michael Chandler's last fight was against Benson Henderson.
Yeah, it's like It's like, are you
Please come
telling me
on.
like if
Like Bendo was good, but like he's so old now. He's so far
it's
past his
just so
prime.
annoying? It's like for the guys like I don't know, someone like Barboza or like Felder, I don't know, guys who just like traded wins and losses in the division. Like, are you telling me that like if they'd have just gone out to Bellator, won like a title and Bellator defended it 5 times, then they'd be like coming in and getting this level of like they'd just be shot straight up the title. Like, he needs a win against someone like a Felder, someone like a Charles Oliveira,
Charles
Kevin
Oliveira,
Lee,
yeah.
like some like fine if you've won the title about one like you're a good competition, yeah, prove against the top 10. You're not getting into my sort of 4-way title eliminator anytime soon.
Yeah. Like I've seen people put like a 4-way title eliminator that included Chandler but didn't include Gaethje, and I'm like, absolute the disrespect.
Yeah, fine.
Unbelievable.
If he comes in there and puts a beating on a Paul Felder or someone in that sort of like 7 to 10, fine.
Yeah,
I'll consider him up there, but not until then.
yeah, yeah. Because as you said, you kind of touched on it. Like you got approaching it earlier, but like lightweight is the most stacked division, and like pretty much anyone in the top 15, like could feasibly go into a title shot on any given night and win a title. Like because like you're playing a game of inches, like anything can happen. But in a hard division, the hardest thing to do is be consistent and consistently win. And when it's such like so going over to Bellator, where like the talent level is like a lot lower, and winning a title and then not having to be consistent in the UFC's lightweight division, that's generally like if you can get a title shot off that, that's a fit, like I'd say considerably easier path to the title than winning and being consistent in the UFC's lightweight division. So yeah, I feel Chandler definitely needs a good win first before I'd be happy to see him in a title fight.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. Ideally, in my ideal world, it's a shame that this McGregor Poirier. I mean, great fight, and I love to watch it. But if they hadn't have had this like almost nailed on, I'd love to have taken because ideally I'd want McGregor, Poirier, Ferguson, Gaethje. But I can't. You can't realistically run back Ferguson, Gaethje straight away.
Yeah,
So ideally,
yeah, I feel yeah. You need to mix that
I'd
up.
want like a Poirier Gaethje 2 and a McGregor Ferguson, or Gaethje McGregor Poirier
Yeah,
Ferguson, and then ideally, I mean, then if you have Ferguson Gaethje in the final, at least Ferguson's got to win. You think, okay, he was preparing for Khabib. He did that silly weight cut. Let's see how it goes again. But
I wouldn't be
I can't.
confident in Gaethje. I really
Yeah,
wouldn't be in Ferguson.
yeah, I wouldn't
But
be. But
like having seen the first fight,
they definitely can't do Gaethje Ferguson as
they can't.
the
Yeah,
next fight because there's
no
absolutely no way.
one's convinced. Like
No.
how much of a battering that was. Like no one's confident in Ferguson in that fight,
So I
apart from the
imagine,
most deluded Tony Ferguson
yeah,
fans.
I imagine Gaethje he's sort of already there in the final. He's sort of got a bye, and
Yeah,
I mean unless they throw like an Oliveira his way or something, but I can't see that. I think it will be winner of Poirier for Poirier McGregor fights him. But
yeah, I think that'll be. It'll be interesting to see how it like all kind of shakes out. Who would you favour? Like at the end of it, who do you think you favour to be champ?
I mean, we sort of talked about this. I imagine we're both McGregor sort of over Poirier at this point.
Yeah,
As much as I'd love to see a Poirier Gaethje too.
I'd love to see. Oh, that'd be fantastic.
McGregor Gaethje.
Interesting one that is.
It's really interesting.
I'd love to see that fight. That'd be brilliant.
Yeah, I think I just put Gaethje ahead just, but
I really don't know. I feel like I think I'm with you. I think I might very uncertainly lean Gaethje.
I'm just like thinking, like the last time we saw like a truly focused, truly like on the money McGregor at 155 was what 2016
when he won the title. Yeah, when he beat Eddie.
2016. It's like, and as much as I think like not a prime, like a focused firing McGregor at 155 could definitely beat Gaethje. I've not seen that version of him for 4 years, and I've seen Gaethje just put a pasting on Ferguson only sort of 5 months ago.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like it could be a dicey early few rounds for Gaethje. But then even the best McGregor, like Gaethje, still has a path to win. I feel like I still want to see someone like a really committed and good leg kicker against McGregor.
Which I think like Gaethje would be.
Which we know Gaethje is. Like McGregor's very long stance, I feel like there is room there to work. So I'd like to see that. And also Gaethje doesn't necessarily have the best cardio, but he does recover well, and he will just even if he's like dead on his feet, exhausted, he will just keep going, and is still dangerous late. And against Ferguson, this more kind of measured approach, he maintains his cardio well for 5 rounds as well, actually, considering that. So I feel it could be even considering the best McGregor, I feel that Gaethje could really put it on him late and finish him.
Yeah.
But then I agree with you. I feel like we haven't seen the best McGregor for a while. But if he does good against Poirier, that's a bit of a, like, I don't want to call it a tune-up because it's a competitive fight, but like it will get him more prepared to fight Gaethje. Yeah. So he could be in better form by the time the Gaethje fight comes around, if that is what's going to happen. So I don't know, it'll be interesting.
Yeah, it's such an interesting time. It's like, I mean, like, love to have seen Khabib stay on, but especially like there wasn't a guy outside of these top 3 at the minute, who I can say that's the next person. And now that Khabib's gone, as much as that's a shame, it does leave this vacuum that is just created this beautiful concoction of just fantastic hypothetical dream matchups within all of those 4. You've got like Oliveira and other people starting to make their way up, and it's just, lightweight still is just an absolute just hell for anyone. Shark Tank. That's the word I'm looking for. But yeah, it'll be great to see, and hopefully we can get some. Hopefully get confirmation of McGregor Poirier, and then we start to sort of see how the lightweight division takes place in Khabib's absence. We've sort of talked at length about that.
We really have. It's been about 40 minutes,
which is fair enough. I guess we'll talk briefly about the rest of the card. I guess, I mean, if I'll give like a brief summary of the others, because I guess the only real one we need to talk about in depth, I guess, is Robert Whittaker. Ankalaev finally battered Kutalaba. Great.
Yeah, get that over with. It was such a funny fight as well. Still, I enjoyed it. And
I do think Ankalaev is a threat at light heavyweight. As much
I think Ankalaev is very good.
Certainly one to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I think he's like, I might say my favourite fighter at light heavyweight currently.
Yeah, he's looking good.
Yeah.
So I want him up. Although, did you see Yuri Prochazka versus Dominic Reyes has apparently been eyed up?
Oh, that'd be like if Dominic Reyes. I feel like Dominic Reyes should win that.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
If he doesn't, I think that's. If Dominic Reyes doesn't win that, John Jones looks awful. He's like the only thing I can really say about that.
What else? Tai Tuivasa, Stefan Struve. I mean, Stefan Struve yet again shows that even if you're in the UFC and you're 7 foot, you still don't know how to use your reach. I mean, Tai Tuivasa literally walked into the clinch. I mean, so weird, especially because if you think back to that Ben Rothwell fight, he was peppering him with leg kicks, and then suddenly he just doesn't know how to use his range. So annoying. Casey Kenny, Nathaniel Wood, that was a fun fight.
That was fantastic.
Fight of the night, which I'm glad they got it. I think Casey Kenny probably just edged it, but neither of them came out looking bad.
I think both fighters stock rose in that, and I loved like Nathaniel Wood's kind of like the way he like slips and rolls like with punches after he punches himself. There's probably a technical term for that I'm blanking on right now. But he does that lovely, and he did that great in this fight. And his leg kick work is brilliant as well. But also, Kenny looked to be a fairly significant, like a decently harder hitter. He also had worked the body with body kicks really well, and controlled him in the third round with the wrestling, which is probably what got Kenny the fight, I would imagine. He didn't control him for long, but just that little bit of wrestling in the third round is probably what gave it to Kenny. But it was a very competitive fight, and both looked great.
Before we talk Whittaker, I will give quick shout out to the old Aka Ruiner. This is seemingly becoming a feature. None other than Sam Alvey. Cheers, Sam. I mean,
brilliant.
I thought if anyone I could rely on just having just losing. I mean, smart, so annoying. If before that fight I didn't want to punch smiling Sam Alvey in his face enough, it has now just gone up even more. So that was annoying.
I feel like this does need to be a regular segment where you just your actors go to.
I had Lauren Murphy and Kalaev and Volkov, and then Sam Alvey.
God,
I mean, what is oh God,
this is also worse because this is like a way that Sam Alvey has probably avoided being cut again. Like, how has this happened? Like, he hasn't won a fight since Jan Vellante in 2018, and like he's still not going to be cut. Like, this is a travesty.
Getting out volumed by Sam Alvey. Like, come on, Jim. What are you doing? That was fantastic. We'll talk brief. I mean, well, I didn't talk about Volkov, but good win for Volkov.
Volkov looked good, to be fair.
I was surprised.
I think he looked like he. Has he put on a bit of weight? Were they talking about that? I feel like they might have. I feel like that was said somewhere, or were they talking about Harris has lost weight? I don't know, something like that. But he looked more powerful in this fight. Volkov did compared to previous outings. He looked like he was hurting Harris fairly consistently. I thought Volkov looked fairly good. So that'll be interesting. His takedown defense probably still is terrible.
Yeah.
But, what are you going to do about that? It's heavyweight. You can't have everything.
And then I guess we'll move to Robert Whittaker versus Jared Cannonier. Robbie Whittaker looking good. This is what I like to see.
Brilliant.
love me some Robert Whittaker. Was conflicted against Till because obviously like Till from a British standpoint, but good to see him back. And then here he looked back to the best. It was the left jab, right high kick. It was back, and I was like, yes, that's what I want to see.
Yeah, I've got a lot of notes for this one, so I don't know if this one.
Go on, reel them off.
This might also just be a bit of a rambling mess, like our pre-fight, like Khabib Gaethje. But yeah, it's pretty much kind of what you said. Like Whittaker looked brilliant, but kind of like ditched the kind of lunging combos that he was using against Adesanya and Till. In part of that, I think that it's probably in part a mental thing, like he's just a bit more comfortable again, but probably in part due to the opponent. I think that against Till and Adesanya, kind of the range and like the footwork of both of them meant that his jab wasn't as consistent a weapon as it was in this fight. Cannonier is not as like tall and long as those two, and he's a bit foot slow. So Whittaker was able to kind of like really get the jab to work, and kind of Cannonier was just kind of like sitting back trying to counter him, and the jab was beating the counters all the time. Cannonier couldn't get the read on it. It was too fast. It just teased them out, and Whittaker was able to pop in with the jab, get right back out. The leg kicks worked well for Cannonier, as they always probably will against Whittaker. He's just vulnerable to them. But yeah, I think what I really like this fight, and what I liked about it is that both Whittaker and Cannonier, like kind of going into the fight, had a kind of clear idea of what they wanted to do. And then it was nice to kind of see the small kind of adjustments and how they made that overall plan work for themselves, like mid-fight. So like, yeah, they both knew what they wanted to do, but then just had to make small adaptations to get that to work. And I thought that was it was nice to see. You don't really get that above 185.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was nice. And then yeah, Rob's that combo, the jab straight right high kick is just absolute money for him. Like that was what he did Jacare with. He did. I think he got
should have done Yoel
with it. Got Yoel with it, but Yoel is inhuman. Yeah, it's fantastic. And what I really like about that is that like Rob can fling his head kick out just so reliably and consistently. Like who else throws like 5 head kicks around?
I know.
Like it's just like the technique and like the way he does it, like it's a more like karate style one.
What I must say, actually, sorry to interrupt, but every time I see a guy go up against Whittaker, like that right high kick's coming, and they'll see the jab or the straight setup, and they will always slip it into his kick. I'm like, where the kick's coming from.
That is actually, I've just scrolled and seen kind of a reason why that might be in my notes. Beautiful. But what I think Rob did quite well and what I actually liked is that he kind of, for that combo, he establishes each weapon in turn. So he really establishes the threat of the jab, like first. Like before there's even the straight, there is the jab. And like he will do that, he'll put damage on you and he'll really get in your face with the jab. And that's what he did well. And then towards the end of the first round in this, he started to land the right straight. And I feel like he hadn't really even put the high kick on it yet. He starts to land the right straight and then the high kick comes up. So you're just worried about the jab and the straight. So like fighters you try to like maybe slip into it, slip out of the way of the jab or the straight, and then you slip right into the high kick. So I think that's probably one of the things that that's probably a factor, and Rob does that very well. He doesn't just go out there and throw it. He does establish those weapons in turn, and he does that very well. So yeah, I thought Rob looked brilliant, but not necessarily to the point that I would be confident in him against Adesanya.
Yeah, this is the thing we talked about last week. It's like a Cannonier win, and Cannonier gets a title shot. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Was a Whittaker win enough? Like this Whittaker, especially, and I've been barking on about this for probably since the Adesanya one. If he can get in some offensive wrestling, even if it's literally just the threat of the offensive wrestling, I think he stands a great chance. As you say, I still think even these 2 victories, does it warrant enough to get Adesanya's attention? But then, alternatively, who else does Adesanya turn to? If he's a guy who likes to stay busy. I mean, the Jones fight, but Jones looked like he's putting on weight and moving to heavyweight.
Yeah, I feel like Jones is doing actually quite a good move there in like moving to heavyweight. He never actually has to fight Adesanya, and doesn't have to look terrible. So it's quite brilliant by Jones, avoiding one of his worst possible matchups, and still managing to like talk a tremendous amount of shit.
As much as it pains him, I would love to see Izzy put the beating on Jones.
Yeah, it'd be brilliant.
205.
But like, Khabib, Jones is cleverly and fairly, quite artistically getting out of the way of that fight. It is quite the art form that John Jones has perfected ducking, whilst also making it look like you're the one that's calling and asking for the fight. So well done, John Jones. It's the best you've looked recently.
So who really knows? Only Tom. I think Whittaker said in his post-fight conference that he's not looking for the fight actively. He also
I like that.
I don't think he said he didn't want to fight until after February, because his 3rd or 4th child is being born around then, so he wants to be there for that, which obviously you can respect. I think only time will tell. If Adesanya's not going to get that if Hadesanya's not going to get that fight at against Jones, I don't really know who else. And he wants to stay at middleweight, and he wants to keep
I've
fighting
heard
secretly.
rumblings. I've heard rumblings of him fighting Blachowicz, which I don't particularly like. Let heavyweight breathe a little bit.
Yeah.
Just let it function like a normal division again. And Adesanya coming in and almost certainly beating Blachowicz will not. It just won't be good for light heavyweight.
Yeah. So
let it breathe. Let Ankalaev
we'll
become
see.
champion. And
Yeah.
but yeah, overall, I thought this was a great fight. I really enjoyed this one. If it weren't for Kenny and Wood, this would have been fight of the night probably.
Yeah.
Because we didn't even talk about Rob still got hurt in this fight, and also how good his grappling did look when he got on top of Cannonier. He absolutely went through him beautifully, and then took a risk, took the back, and then Cannonier managed to scramble up from it. And then I think when they got up, I feel like Rob was a bit kind of. I feel like a switch was flicked in him, and he was like, right, okay, it's near the end of the fight now. I've just got to see it out to a victory. And he kind of probably made him a bit hesitant, and he wasn't firing on all cylinders again. But in part, maybe he was also kind of looking for a knockout as well. But I feel like, and that was when he got buzzed. I feel like he just either wasn't completely on, or he was looking for the one big shot. And yeah, he got clipped, but he was very professional and smart about it. Basically just desperately clinched up and managed to smush Cannonier against the cage for the rest of the fight. So very, very good by Rob, even in being hurt. I thought he looked a professional performance. And honestly, it was 29-28 across the board, and I think DC was saying that Cannonier could have won.
I mean, the way DC was going on about Cannonier's leg kicks, you thought it was 30-27 Cannonier. I mean,
yeah, if I don't really I feel that's a fairly comfortable 30-27 for Whittaker.
Yeah, I think I saw it as though
he won every round fairly convincingly for me.
Yeah,
and the third round was on track to be a 10-8 until he got buzzed.
Yeah.
So yeah, very good from Whittaker. Really fun fight, I thought, and yeah, good stuff.
Solid stuff. Well, we can move to this weekend. Obviously not the best. I mean, there's a few fights of intrigue, but yeah, sort of taking down from the high of 254 certainly. Where do you want to start? Do you want to any
Just
fights?
start.
Any fights here that are really taking your fancy?
So, not really taking my fancy, but Bobby Green has been actually looking quite fun recently.
We sort of got Bobby Green and Kevin Holland, which are the COVID competitors.
COVID favourites.
Yeah. But this is Bobby Green's fourth COVID fight. And if I look up Kevin Holland, it is Kevin Holland's only in June. Jesus. It's Kevin Holland's fourth as well. So yeah, they're both 3-0 in their COVID run. I think the Bobby Green Moises I'm quite excited for. Moises, as we talked about a bit off air, got the win against Michael Johnson. Fantastic submission. Didn't look great in that first round. Michael Johnson looked really good. So that'll be interesting. But yeah, Bobby Green's really fun. So
and then the only one, probably my most anticipated fight on this card, is probably Feely Mitchell. It'd be a really nice, it'd be good to see where kind of Mitchell's at, especially on the feet, because I feel like he hasn't. He's been so dominant on the ground, and he does a lot of really nice things on the ground. So it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out. Can he just dominate Feely and take him down at will again? I think probably not. So we'll probably be forced to see a bit more of him on the feet. And I think that'll be a great fight overall. And then
Andre Feely's always in good scraps.
Yeah.
his. I'm looking at it now. Like Sadiq Yusuf, that was a great fight. The Charles Jourdain fight, that was a fun one. So yeah, that's always a good one. I mean, we can sort of turn our attentions largely to the main event now, I guess. What I thought was a retirement fight, but apparently now comments in the week suggest that this is perhaps Adam Silva's retirement from the UFC, and perhaps
Yeah.
he's still going elsewhere. He fights up against Uriah Hall. Uriah Hall, who I think when was Uriah Hall's last fight? He fought against, oh God, he hasn't fought in well over a year.
Was it Paulo Costa? Was that his last fight?
No, he fought Antonio Jr.
Oh, we have two fights after he fought Shoeface. Interesting.
So yeah, he comes off a split decision against Shoeface and a Bevan Lewis fight. If I remember correctly, he was losing that fight prior to knocking him out.
I can't remember.
I seem to remember.
It's one of those, like, I've seen these fights. I cannot remember.
Yeah. And then coming up against Anderson Silva, who last fight was it Cannonier?
Yeah,
Cannonier, which is like his like TKO / leg injury. I'm not really sure what it was.
There's a TKO, I think. I'm fairly confident.
Yeah, I'm confident. Like if you go someplace it says leg injury, if you go others says TKO, I think it was TKO.
Yeah.
He's obviously on this skid. I think is putting it lightly.
He beat Brunson in 2017.
Yeah, beat Brunson 2017. I mean,
I think that was a terrible fight.
Didn't look bad against Adesanya.
He didn't look terrible. No, I feel like Adesanya probably gave him a bit too much respect. Maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Brunson fight, like, I can't fully remember, but I seem to remember me thinking, and a lot of other people thinking, he lost that fight anyway.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he should be on a big skid, and he should probably think about retiring. As he is thinking about retiring. But yeah, I don't know. I also have heard that, this could just be a UFC retirement, and he said he plans on fighting after this still. But I don't know why. He's just not the same Anderson Silva anymore, clearly.
Yeah, I think we've known that, as you said, for quite some time.
A long time.
I mean, he is like 45 years old.
He is so old, to be fair. He is very old.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, trust Anderson Silva to pick a retirement fight when there's going to be no one there. Yeah, it'll be interesting. I hope. Like to be honest, it is bizarre because like as much as it is retirement and as much you look back to that run he had at middleweight before like those back-to-back Christian Weidman's lost. Like I feel like the mystique and the aura around him has just diminished and just sort of like it's been like a sort of like a slow puncture, and sort of my sort of like the mystique has sort of like slowly waned like a sort of tire that's got like a slow puncture in it, and now it's sort of like he is just sort of like an old man. Like we're not sort of reaching BJ Penn levels of like there are serious health concerns of you stepping in the ring.
Yeah, it's not BJ Penn level,
but it is like, oh, remember what he used to be, and like there's no like every fight he's in is like, oh look what he was, and like there's no real imminent threat. But yeah, I think it'll be fun to see him go at it one more time. Hopefully he just beats Uriah Hall and goes off into the sunset. But
yeah,
I have no real. I mean, I feel like Uriah Hall should get the job done. I mean, he is supposedly 10th in the middleweight rankings.
Yeah, probably.
I don't really know based off what, to be honest. I didn't really think Bevan Lewis and Shoeface wins gets you 10 in the rankings, but
apparently they do.
So yeah, I imagine he'll get the job done, but equally well, this could be a snooze fest. You never know.
It's very possible. Anderson Silva does have a bit of a
snoozer in him.
Yeah. But yeah, that's about. Is there any news that you'd like to talk about? I can't really think of anything.
I think we've rambled on for quite some time. But yeah, thanks for listening. We'll be back hopefully at some point next week. We've got Santos Teixeira for about the 7th time.
Do it. Oh, brilliant.
So, well, although I tell you what was on that card, which is now off.
Great.
Yeah. So
get excited and smash me back down again.
Diego Ferreira versus Drew Dober.
Oh, that's a fantastic
That
fight.
is a banger. I think Diego Ferreira's ill.
That's sad because even though that is a banger, like I feel like Diego Ferreira deserves someone higher ranked than Drew Dober.
And actually, you had Arnold Allen, Jeremy Stevens. Jeremy Stevens pulled out with injury as well. So there was a couple in there.
That would have been a decent card.
Yeah. Don't worry, we've got Tanabosa, so UFC's answer to Muhammad Ali.
Okay, nice.
Look at him move. Look at him move.
Yeah, I mean, for a heavyweight, he's fairly good.
He moves.
I don't mind him.
But yeah, we'll raise our enthusiasm levels for it at some point next week. But yeah, thanks. Oh, sorry.
Apparently, Drew Dober and Arnold Allen are still on the cards.
Still on the card. They're still sort of TBDs.
Yeah, so maybe if they get fights, that could be still okay.
Yeah,
even just showcases for them, possibly, like late notice showcases.
So yeah, we will see. But yeah, thanks for listening, everyone. Stay safe, and we'll see you next week.
See ya.